this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Councilor Rita Murcia.
Here.
Councilor Milanazzo. Here. Councilor Ramirez.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Councilor Caulfield.
Here.
Councilor Donahue. Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Mayor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Armin Murcia.
Here.
8 present, 1 absent.
Before we begin, if I could ask the chamber to rise in a moment of silence in darkened chambers for Don McGovern, a longtime employee of the school department who I understand passed away last evening. Thank you. May he rest in peace. Okay, and I would like to welcome Mr. Lynch as the city manager for your first meeting. And before we begin with the formal agenda, I would like to make a presentation to the Lowell Community Health Center. Dorcas Greek-Saito is here, if you could come to the podium. And I would like to read a proclamation. Whereas the Actually, why don't I hear from you, and then I'll just present the proclamation.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Dorcas Greek-Saito, CEO of Lowell Community Health Center, and Pat Crane is here representing our board of directors. We appreciate the proclamation that we're about to receive, recognizing Lowell Community Health Center and National Community Health Center Week. We at the Health Center are extremely proud of the vital role that we play in providing quality, accessible health care for the people of Lowell on a daily basis. As you know, delivering quality health care is an increasing challenge. Costs continue to escalate. Employers are often forced to reduce benefits for their employees. Fixed income seniors frequently are required to choose between filling their prescriptions or paying for other necessities. And almost 1/5 of the city's residents do not enjoy health insurance coverage. Residents and businesses in Lowell are dealing with these trends as well. As a result, LCHC is challenged with meeting significant increases in demand for health services. The statistics tell the story. In 2005, the number of visits to Lowell Community Health Center increased to 75,000, more than double that in 2000. Last year, we served as the family doctor for 22,000 patients. The vast majority were residents of Lowell. Given these present trends, both the number of visits and patients we serve will increase this year. Thus, LCHC provides a unique and much-needed service to the community. We accept all private and public insurances and are available to serve anyone regardless of their financial status. Because of the high demand for our services, our budget has grown from $9.1 million in 2000 to $15.3 million. From the year 2000 to 2005, we almost doubled the number of staff at the health center, from 138 to 267 employees. 75% of them live in Lowell. In addition, we've almost tripled the number of doctors and nurse practitioners employed, from 11 to 31. Based on the cost of goods and services, we contribute some $25 million toward the economic vitality of the city, up from $20 million in 2003. We accommodate the 75,000 visits and only 31,000 square feet of space, so we are literally bursting at the seams. Our main medical facilities are in 4 different buildings, making our operations less efficient. Our goal for the coming year is to secure a site to begin development of a 55,000 square foot facility to accommodate our need to consolidate and expand facilities. We need a location on public transportation and convenient to our patients. We look forward to continuing our ongoing efforts with DPD and now with the Lynch administration to address our expansion needs. We appreciate the city's assistance in finding a location for the health center that meets our client and employee needs. A new home is essential to our future. It will enhance our cost effectiveness and improve our coordination and continuity of care, allowing us to meet the ever-increasing demand for our services. We are also grateful for the ongoing cooperation and support we receive from the mayor, all of the council members, one of whom helped to start the health center, Armin Mercier, the city manager, the health department, the school committee, and administration. Working with civic leaders who consistently strive to be responsive and helpful definitely makes the fulfillment of our mission easier, and the people of Lowell are the beneficiaries. We've been around for 35 years now, and we look forward to working with you throughout our next 35 years and to supporting the city's master plan, where it says the vision of Lowell as a lifetime city where people can enjoy all stages of life. You have our commitment to helping to keep Lowell's residents healthy. Pat?
Thanks. We'll hear from Patricia Crane from Lowell General Hospital.
Thank you. City Manager Lynch, City Councilors, it's actually really an honor to be here tonight on this significant evening on City Manager Lynch's first official meeting. Very big honor for us, right? Yes. And wish you good luck, obviously. I just want to reinforce some what Dorcas has said from a board's point of view, as well as a community resident's point of view. I hope you've had a chance to look at some of the materials in the packet, because Dorcas just listed a whole bunch of statistics, and when you hear them all at once, it's like, oh my goodness. But when you take the time to separate them out and really realize what those numbers are, it's staggering. I've been involved in the Lowell Community Health Centers primarily through my position at Lowell General Hospital, which was started 13 years ago. And I, at that time, obviously did not know a lot, definitely didn't know about Armin's story. That means he's older than I am. But anyway, didn't know all that they did. And my reaction was, wow, absolute wow. Because the service that the Community Health Center provides to Lowell is phenomenal. And we say that phrase, provides to Lowell. What we're really saying is the service it provides to us as residents of Lowell, for our families, our friends, our neighbors, and so on. And all of us know that. You know, we're proud of the quality of the care that's given at 12 locations in the city on a daily basis. In addition to that, I'm constantly amazed at how much the Community Health Center brings to Lowell as a thriving business with excellent employment opportunities and providing a healthy workforce for Lowell. In addition, there is much for this city to be proud of the Community Health Center. I mean, think of this, the fact that the United Nations views the Lowell Community Health Center's Meta Health Center as unique and worthy of funding, that's significant. That's significant. The existence of a very strong obstetrical nurse practitioner program, it offers a tremendous service to this community, the women in this community. The fact that they are accredited by the Joint Commission on Accreditation of Healthcare Providers. I mean, that's the same thing as Saints and Lowell General does. So, I mean, those are 3 healthcare providers that are highly accredited by the premier accreditation organization. And that the entire health center, meaning all of the programs, was recognized nationally as one of the 5 top health centers in the country. One of 5 in the country. That's a wow. That's a wow. We hope that the City of Lowell shares in our pride in these accomplishments. As Dorcas mentioned previously, we are aware that such levels of achievements could not have occurred without the support of the City of Lowell. And that's always been the case, at least in my 13 years in association at the hospital and the Community Health Center. The City of Lowell, in particular this body, has always been supportive and interested and involved in the Community Health Center, and we're very grateful for that. So on behalf of the board and the staff, I really would like to invite you to join us on Thursday at the Community Health Center's Merrimack Street location for our community cookout. It's an annual event, and I know I've seen some of you there in other years. It's always a lot of fun, and it means so much to the clients and the staff when the community leaders come and show their support by being there physically and congratulating them. So I really invite all of you who are free, it's a great meal, to join us on this Thursday from noon until 2. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. And if you could indulge me just a minute to read and present the proclamation. Whereas Lowell Community Health Center has made great strides in Lowell's healthcare system, specifically by maintaining high standards of accountability, demonstrating cost-effectiveness and efficiency in the delivery of care, and empowering communities to address unmet health needs. reduce health disparities, and reduce preventable deaths, costly disabilities, and communicable diseases. And whereas the health center provides care to 1 out of every 5 residents of Lowell, 1 out of every 3 uninsured individuals, and 1 out of every 3 Medicaid beneficiaries who would otherwise lack access to culturally competent, high-quality health care. And whereas the Lowell Community Health Center has demonstrated an enduring commitment to the provision of quality primary health care and promotes 100% access and 0 health disparities to help achieve health care for all people, now, therefore, I, William F. Martin, Jr., Mayor of the City of Lowell, do hereby proclaim the week of August 6 through 12, 2006, as National Community Health Center Week in celebration of patient voice and community choice, and urge all citizens to recognize the important contributions of the Lowell Community Health Center in expanding access to health care and improving health and well-being of the residents of Lowell, given this 8th day of August, 2006. Congratulations and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the agenda, we have the minutes of the July 25th meeting for acceptance.
Move to accept the minutes of the last meeting.
Motion to approve by Councilor Caulfield, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Unfinished business. Motion by Councilor Elliott to move for reconsideration on the ordinance regarding position salaries in the FY07 budget approved by the council on July 25th, 2006. The motion is as follows. I move for reconsideration on the ordinance creating and abolishing positions and salaries consistent with fiscal 2007 city budget, which was approved by vote of the City Council July 25th, 2006. The motion requires a second, seconded by Councilor Ramirez. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me. Welcome, Mr. Lynch. The reason for for filing the motion for reconsideration, as we move into the new administration, myself and actually Council Broderick have a similar motion tonight to take a look at the budget. First of all, to find out where we are from a financial perspective. Where are we with the tax rate? We just began the new fiscal year, and what are the priorities of this administration as it relates to the budget? And when I voted for that motion last week, I rethought the issue that if we want some changes, if we find out where we are financially, what the impact on the tax rate is, and if we have to make cuts, if we need to do some shift changes, the manager's not going to be able to do that because we have adopted the ordinance, and that will include those new positions, that will include upgrades, and I didn't think it was fair. I didn't think it was the appropriate way to go through a planning process. So that was the reason for it, because I would like the manager to take a look at it. I still have no idea what the impact on the tax rate is. This council has not been told what it is, where we are, and I don't want to wait to the last minute following, before we get too far into the fiscal year. Let us know where we are. What is the tax rate with this budget, and if we have to make cuts, which I think that we will have to, let's go back to the drawing board, and that would include everything, including those that ordinance that we passed 2 weeks ago. So I did. That is the crux of the motion. If we're going to have him take a look at it and make adjustments, if this ordinance had passed, he's not going to be able to do it because it's a done deal. So give them the whole package, let them look at the whole budget. It's not final until we set the tax rate later in the year, until we get free cash. I have some serious concerns about the free cash figure that we used. We still don't know snow and ice. There are a lot of open questions that inevitably roll into us setting a tax rate and what impact that's going to have. Where are we with the valuation process? So all of these things we need to take a look at it, and I don't want to wait until it's too late. Unfortunately, I did get a call from the manager today, and prior to the manager and the solicitor, and I have to say I'm disappointed that some of these have already been implemented, including raises, upgrades, and some positions. the rules we have require a motion to be filed 24 hours after the last meeting, which I did. The auditor's not here tonight. He's responsible for that, and I will question him at the next meeting once that motion is filed. And I want to ask the clerk, Mr. Clerk, did you notify the auditor's office that following Wednesday? Because he would need to know that.
I had conversation with the auditor's office. I don't know if it was either Wednesday or Thursday, one of the 2 days.
One way or the other, he should have known about that, and he is not allowed by law to make any move. So it's unfortunate. It's not the end of the world, because I do support, for instance, 5 police officers that were in the ordinance, and maybe others, maybe all of them. But I want to send it back to the manager to get a report as to where we are. So I don't know where we can go from here, Mr. Mayor, from a legal perspective. They're already done. They're not supposed to have been done until this council votes on it, and the auditor absolutely should not have made those adjustments until this issue was settled. So I'm disappointed, and I'm not sure exactly what we can do. It's not a done deal until this body votes on it. However, the auditor did go ahead and do that without the authority to do so. So that's the reason for the motion, and I still would like to have the manager take a look at it.
Let me just explain. The motion is for reconsideration.
Right.
If that passes, it needs 5 votes to pass. If that passes, then it's as if the ordinance is back before us again to be voted or referred as the council sees fit. That vote requires 6 votes.
I know that there's a similar motion that, whether this can be tied in or not, maybe we can take a look at it as well. I mean, for instance, again, 5 police officers that have been hired, that's not questionable. But, maybe some of them are, and maybe they're not. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, in the latter part of June, I believe the budget was accepted, voted on with some slight deductions, and this was approved. This was voted on in the budget. So I just question how we can go back now and take something out of the budget that's already been voted on. Plus the fact, I think you have to there's no debate for reconsideration. You have a roll call for reconsideration, and then if it passes, then you have the debate. So that should have been in order.
Well, that's correct, Councilor, but I think it is appropriate to hear from the maker of the motion, the rationale for the motion. But
No, you take a roll call vote for reconsideration, then you go into
all right,
discussion.
so roll call on the motion for reconsideration.
No, I have a question.
Councilor Mercia.
It's my understanding that if you're going to reconsider a motion that took place, you have to do it and get on record 24 hours before the next meeting. Now, this is the first I hear that we're reconsidering something that we voted on previously, and it seems to me that it doesn't acknowledge the rules of reconsideration. So I would ask you, Mr. Mayor, to make the determination. Is reconsideration of a motion in order when it wasn't filed within 24 hours of the vote that was taken?
It was filed within 24 hours.
It was?
Yes, and if it weren't, it would be out of order. You're correct.
Okay.
But it was filed within 24 hours.
I wasn't aware of it. That's why I'm questioning it.
I wasn't aware of it until it appeared on the agenda also, but it was filed with the clerk within the 24 hours.
I guess my next
as
question
required.
then, I guess, would be from you, Mr. Mayor, to the city solicitor's office is, the ordinance that was approved was a public hearing ordinance. Was that not the case? Didn't we have a public hearing for that ordinance? And so if we approve this reconsideration and then we get into that, we have to start that process all over again, I would imagine. I mean, we would have to advertise it. We would have to have another public hearing on it. I mean, I think that this is not a wise thing to do, although it's well-intended. I think that we have an ordinance that was passed. We all voted for it. And if the manager, in his application of the budget, sees things that he would like to see implemented, then I most certainly would support that. But I don't think we should try to reinvent the wheel here. We passed that ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, I thought we weren't going to debate
I'm-
this. This is not debatable. I'm allowed to speak in the motion and just vote it up or down.
when it's his turn.
Well, Councilor Mercy had a point of order
Yes,
as
I mean,
to whether the
I'm
motion was
just not going
properly
to support the
filed.
reconsideration. I don't think we should reinvent the wheel.
Right.
I think we should leave the manager to manage based on what he sees in the budget. So I'm not going to vote for reconsideration.
Manager, you can't vote on, you
Roll
can't
call.
manage if there's no, if the ordinance is in
Counselor.
place.
Roll call on the motion for reconsideration.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
No.
Councilor Milonazo.
No.
Councilor Ramirez.
No.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
No.
Councilor Donahue. Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia.
No.
Motion fails.
So the motion for reconsideration fails, so the ordinance stands. Okay. Under city manager's portion of the agenda, there is a communication for the manager requesting approval of out-of-state travel. Dear Mayor, members of the City Council Division of Planning and Development is requesting City Council approval for Brian Connors, Director of Economic Development, to travel September 17-20 to New York, to attend the annual meeting of International Economic Development Council. The IDC is the world's largest membership organization serving the development profession. The total conference cost $2,145.
Move approval.
Questions? Motion to approve by Councilor Arman Mercier, second by Councilor Broderick. Roll call.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue. Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Okay, the next item is an order. A 60-day trial for traffic regulations in various locations. Order pursuant to Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 13-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations. Temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days, whereas the City of Lowell desires to make temporary rules regulating traffic under actual conditions for a period of 60 days, and whereas Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances, Section 13-6, authorizes the City Council to make such temporary rules for a period not to exceed 60 days. Now, therefore, be it ordained, judged, and decreed as follows, effective on passage and continuing for a period of 60 days thereafter, the following temporary traffic regulations are implemented. Section 13-156, parking for handicapped person, is hereby amended by adding the following: Butterfield Street, number 11, Walnut Street, number 39, Endicott Street, number 62. I'm not sure that those are the actual street numbers. They may be station numbers or something on the street, but second reading by title, an order pursuant to Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 13-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations. Temporary traffic regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Any questions? Roll call.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue. Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Order designating the intersection of Ellis Street and Waterford Street in the City of Lowell, the Norman Lake Memorial, in order of Norman Leg, or is it Legu?
I guess Legoo.
Legu.
Like Legoo.
Whereas the city is desirous of honoring Norman Legu, now therefore it is ordered by the City Council of the City of Lowell that the intersection of Ellis Street and Waterford Street in the City of Lowell is hereby designated the Norman Legu Memorial in honor of Norman Legu. Second reading by title, an order designating the intersection of Ellis Street and Waterford Street in the City of Lowell as the Norman Legu Memorial in honor of Norman Legu. Councilor Arman Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Legoo's daughter, actually, Denise Cloutier, asked me if I would bring this in. Her dad, Norman Legoo, was United States Navy, World War II, third-class rank. He entered on August 31st, 44 till May 19, 1946. He served in the Naval Construction Battalion, better known as CB. He was awarded the WW2 Victory Medal, American Theater Medal, and the Asiatic Pacific Theater Medal. It is an honor for me to bring this forward and request approval by the entire council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Questions? Roll call.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue. Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Okay, we have public hearing and ordinance creating grant positions in the police department and salaries therefore. An ordinance creating 1 Director of Victim Services full-time, 1 Community Liaison full-time, 1 Project Coordinator part-time, 1 Tracking Analyst full-time, and establishing the salaries therefore in the police department. Is there a motion to waive the full reading of this? So moved by Councilor Rita Mercier, seconded by Councilor Milonazo. All those in favor of waiving the full reading, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. The full reading is waived. Second reading by title, an ordinance creating 1 Director of Victim Services full-time, 1 Community Liaison full-time, 1 Project Coordinator part-time, and 1 Tracking Analyst full-time, and establishing the salaries therefore in the police department. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of this ordinance? In favor?
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Mr. Manager, I'm here, my name is Ed Davison, Police Chief. I'm speaking in favor of this proposal. The two main purposes of this program are aggressive enforcement of warrants and restraining orders and improving services to victims overall, particularly those in underserved populations in the immigrant community. 2 of these positions will have language skills that will allow us to reach Khmer-speaking people better, as well as Spanish and Portuguese-speaking people. As we all know, violence against women is a very serious problem in the United States, and this grant comes to us from the Office of Violence Against Women, the Department of Justice. It's actually a continuation grant of a very successful program that we've had for the last 4 years.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the ordinance? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Councilor Armin Mercier.
I just have a question of the chief. Do we own these positions if the grant runs out, or this is just during the grant?
Strictly for the purposes of the grant, for the extent of the grant.
Thank you.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Councilor Caulfield, second by Councilor Broderick. Roll call.
Councilor Rita Mercier?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue? Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercier?
Yes.
8 yeas, 1 absent.
Okay, there's an additional public hearing request by Keyspan for a gas main in Eddy Street. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this ordinance? Anybody from Keyspan present to speak in favor?
Motion to recess for a week if there's
Okay.
nobody here.
2 weeks.
2 weeks,
Motion
sorry.
to recess the public hearing
2
for a 2-week period by, well, let me see, is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Anyone to speak in opposition? Okay, motion to recess the hearing for a period of 2 weeks by Councilor Rita Mercier, seconded by Councilor Armin Mercier. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The matter is, the hearing is opened and then recessed for a 2-week period.
Read that notice, please.
Okay, the clerk has asked me to read an explanatory note here. As a result of an advertisement error, the public hearing date for the proposed amendments to zoning regulations has been moved to September 12th in order to comply with Massachusetts general laws. I believe these were zoning amendments to deal with in-law apartments that were requested by several neighborhood groups. So that public hearing will not be held now until September 12th. Okay, subcommittee reports. Councilor Rita Mercier?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is actually a delayed vote here that I'm submitting as part of this report of progress. July 11th, the Parks and Recreation Subcommittee meeting had a meeting on maybe 3 issues. One in particular was the Fayette Street Park that we knew, as you are aware of, Mr. Mayor, that you were a part of it before you were the mayor, and how the residents on on that particular Fayette Street, Mesa Street apartments had a rough time with the park that's there. The park being frequented at 11:30 and 12 at night by youngsters that thought that it was proper to be playing basketball at that particular time. And I know that Tom Belgard, our Commissioner of Parks and Recreation, had advised us, and we took a vote last October that would put aside $38,000 for the reconfiguring of that park should it warrant it, and we didn't know where it was or if it was going to at the time, so we delayed that. And attending were my subcommittee people, namely Kevin Broderick and Edward Bud Caulfield, who are members of that subcommittee, and we took a vote, and we had a few people there that were residents of the particular Mesa Street apartments, as well as a petition from 42 people that they could have gotten 200 people, and I could have probably flooded this place this evening, but I figure I'll give it one more shot, because at the time that I made the recommendation to support that transfer, I know, Mr. Mayor, you didn't support it because you didn't seem fit to take a recreational tool, namely the basketball nets, and put children out in the street. However, I don't look upon these as your children that you'd want to nurture. I think these children belong on a work detail somewhere, try to learn respect for the residents of that neighborhood, and you wanted it probably reconfigured somewhere else, and I couldn't bear the thoughts of perhaps putting this basketball court up on Kittredge Park, probably on Clark Road. I don't think we could figure that out. But I did hear from my colleagues who said, well, why don't we delay it and find out why did you get $38,000 to reconfigure this park to make it into a passive park / tot park? And I assured some of my colleagues that I knew what was going on, but that it wasn't me that could take the liberty to say that we were going to apply for a self-help grant and perhaps get it, which you know that that's what we did. So I'm appealing and asking for a roll call vote now that you know from the request to have Tom Bellegarde provide us with some information as what's going to happen with Shed Park. Is there any money slated for that? And yes, we know that there's going to be a water pool there, and we know that we get some money from a self-help grant to go there as well. So I'm appealing to you one more time for a roll call vote and ask if you would support the residents up at the Mesa Street Apartments to turn that facility park into a tot park / passive park with the money in place, and try to have Tom Bellegarde find a way to put the basketball courts somewhere else. But I don't know that they belong there at the nighttime when we've had surveillance from the police department and nothing seems to be working. And you know as well as I do, we're short of police, and they can't be everywhere, and they can't be patrolling Fayette Street all hours of the night, specifically to keep it calm and quiet and return and restore the quality of life that these residents so deservedly deserve. So I'm asking if you could support the second recommendation from the Commissioner of Parks and Recreation to change that over to a passive / tot park and remove the basketball courts. That's my motion as it stands, and I would request a roll call to see if we could do that.
Councilors, so this is now a follow-up report for
Yes.
your original meeting?
Yes, it is.
The subcommittee met again?
Well, we didn't meet again, but we didn't really have to meet again because it was, some of my colleagues asked that we delay it till they got a report from Commissioner Bellegarde, which we did in our packet. We got a report as to what money is going to be slated to Shed Park, which you got, and the second was, that's all that.
Councilor Milinazzo? Come up.
And I know you don't support it, Mr. Mayor, but
Mayor Martin.
Thank you. Well, it's not that I don't support it. In fact, the report that we got from Commissioner Bellegarde was very helpful. In fact, it identified there was $38,000 in CDBG money designated for this park. However, my understanding of the CDBG application was that it included a lot of upgrades and a lot of work in that park, but that it included keeping the basketball court. So, I mean, I'm fully in support of the proposal that was proposed as part of the Community Development Block Grant proposal. So, if that's the vote, I'm certainly in favor of that. I thought the additional information we got from park upgrades that was submitted by Commissioner Bellegarde was was actually kind of reassuring to see that there was a lot of work going on in the parks area and park improvements, and we've seen some good work from the legislature as well in funding some additional projects. So I'm certainly in support of the original proposal. If that's going to change, then I don't see how we've seen how it's going to change yet. So in that regard, I don't think much has changed since the first time this was considered by the council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Mayor. First of all, I think we all owe a great deal of gratitude to the Lowell delegation for once again coming through with, I believe it's $450,000 that will upgrade Shed Park, Hadley Park, and many parks in our city. Recreation is meant just that, to have recreation and enjoy. But when there's youngsters or young adults who are bouncing a basketball at 12 o'clock and at 1 o'clock in the morning, that is no recreation for nobody except them. And the peace and tranquility of those people are being destroyed. And Councilor Broderick and Councilor Rita Mercy and I met with these people. And as Councilor Rita Mercy indicated, there could have been 50 or 60 people down here tonight. I think what we want to do is create something that everyone can enjoy, a passive park, so the elderly and the residents who live in that neighborhood can enjoy it as well. Nobody wants to hear the constant pounding of a basketball. I don't think anyone's keeping score. They're only keeping score. How many people can we keep awake? And I think that was the plight of those people, Mr. Mayor, to end this nonsense. And I think the question has been answered. Councilor Eileen Donohue wanted to know whether there's going to be any funding for Shed Park. That has come through. Yes, there is going to be funding for Shed Park. And I think we should move on with this issue and create peace and tranquility for those residents who are being bothered now by young adults who really don't care for their peace and tranquility or anyone else's. So.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Ramirez.
Thank you, Councilman Azzo. If I could just get a 1 or 2 cent, I just want to know what exactly it is that Councilor Mercia wants us to vote on specifically.
I want you to vote on the motion that says to request the manager have the Parks Department, namely Tom Belgard and the Parks Department, convert that Fayette Street Park into a passive/tot park and remove the basketball courts. If you can't support removing the basketball courts, then I'm going to pursue this, and if you want to hear from 42 people, I can arrange that, but I didn't do that tonight.
I'm not looking for an editorial.
Well,
I just want to know exactly what it is you want.
Well, that's the
on floor.
motion as I stated it.
Thank you.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Thank you very much. You know, this is a double-edged sword, you know. First of all, I totally agree with the people who live at Manson Park and Father Norton Manor. They have to put up with this. It is something they shouldn't have to put up with. You got a bunch of guys out there playing basketball at 12 o'clock at night, and God knows what takes place when they're playing basketball. That's something that should not be a quality of life of our elderly that are living in that street. Having said that, I'm a little concerned about a passive park that now becomes a hangout for people who don't play basketball but be doing something else. So I am going to support the request from the Manson Park people who really cannot live this way. I think it should be converted to a passive park with maybe increased police protection to make sure it doesn't turn out to be a hangout, and that we relocate the basketball courts in some other location in that neighborhood. I'm sure there are a number of places where that could take place. So if there's a roll call vote required tonight, I absolutely agree with the motion that this should be converted. We should ask the city manager to take a look at this and you know, convert it to a passive park. The elderly should not be faced with this type of problem at 11, 12 o'clock at night. Thank you.
Mayor Martin.
Well, I'm just not so sure basketball's the real problem here. If it's people hanging out in a park late at night, you pull out the courts and throw in some swing sets and some flowers and everything. I'm not sure that solves the problem. I also am not sure that's what was applied for in this grant. So, I mean, I'm happy to try and help these people. If it is kids playing basketball till midnight, then yeah, maybe the answer is to take out the courts. But I'm not convinced as we sit here tonight that that's going to solve their problem. And so I don't think that that's what the grant authorized either. So I don't support that. I mean, I would support having the manager take a look at it, give him a chance to look at this issue, bring back a recommendation that maybe could have all sides be happy. But I don't think enough has changed since our last meeting to warrant a reversal of that vote that occurred.
Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Councilman Milazzo. Excuse me. As you know, I supported it in the subcommittee, but I think what the mayor has just mentioned, I think it is an enforcement issue. And if we pull the basketball courts out, you're going to have kids just hanging out smoking cigarettes there, sitting in the swings and just hanging around. So I think it's, no matter what we do, how we spend the money, it's going to come down to unfortunately, the chief just left. He indicated to me that he doesn't get a whole lot of calls, and but I would like to have him come to a meeting with maybe have the residents can talk directly to the chief as well, Mr. Manager. And I don't know. I mean, I supported it before. I think if it's the way to do it is to pull the basketball courts. If that's the only way to do it in the neighborhood, I think that we should go ahead. But I would not be opposed to having the manager take a look at it, because I think that we do need recreation as well. And it's nice to put in swings. You know, I have little children. It's nice to put in swings and have a nice, beautiful park, but the kids are going to go somewhere. So I think we need to make sure that the older kids have somewhere else to go so that we keep them off the streets as well. But I supported it before. Maybe what we could do is get some more information. The manager, I know you have a few things on your plate now, but maybe with Commissioner Bellegarde and the chief of police, find out, you know, how we can solve the problem, because it's bigger than just a basketball court. I think we all agree that it's going to be more of an enforcement issue than what they're doing down there. They have a basketball in their hand or cigarettes or whatever they're doing. I think it's going to be an enforcement issue down the road, and I think we have to continue to look at it either way.
Councilor Rodney Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. This might be just a silly question, but how can they be playing basketball at night? Are the lights being left on? And if they are, why are they? Because I know that, I mean, this has to be taking place across the city if it's happening at this particular court. I mean, that's the first thing I think we have to do. If there's no lights, they can't play.
Yes, they can.
So, I don't know, I guess I'll ask that question to the chair. I mean, are the lights being left on?
No, there's no lights there. We asked if we put lights there, would there be a detriment to be there? And they said, there isn't any lights there. We don't want to put any lights there. No, there's no lights there.
So how can they be playing basketball late at night?
You do have a moon at night. I mean, it isn't completely pitch black, and I don't know of any cigarette smoking that causes a lot of racket. I mean, I smoked for 40 years, and it never kept any neighbors awake. I'm certainly sure of that. I don't know where you're coming from, but hey, if you want to dispute me and go against what,
well, I'm just
what
asking
42 people signed a petition, if you think that they don't know what they're talking about,
no,
I don't know if you think they
that,
got rocks in their head. I don't know, but
that's not the case at all whatsoever. I don't think they have rocks in their head. I'm just trying to find out how they're playing basketball, and if we can shut some lights off, they're going to go away, because I'm just thinking ahead. If there's a problem with this court, there are basketball courts throughout the whole city that are in residential neighborhoods. So I think that's the first thing. And I, of course I'm concerned about the people that live in. Who wants to listen to that in the middle of the night? I think it's more of an enforcement issue. And if we put a passive park there or a basketball, the kids are going to go and hang out there if there's a problem with lack of police enforcement. So no, I don't think that the people have rocks in their heads. I also don't think that people can play basketball through the moonlight. So, I mean, I'll support the man, and that's the first thing. And secondly, for us to say, well, let's make it a passive park, if that's what the will of the council is, where is that park going to go? I'd like to know where we're going to put a basketball park. We have a major gang problem in the city. It's within the age of that particular age bracket. We got a grant from the state to do something with it. One of the programs is to run basketball leagues to keep the kids entertained. So if there's a plan from the manager or Mr. Bellegarde, or maybe the subcommittee has a plan, where is that park going to go? Where's the basketball park going to go? That's the appropriate way to approach it, rather than putting the horse before the cart, saying, we made it a passive park, that's fine. Now they have nowhere else to go. They're hanging around the park, creating problems. So that's my only point, just trying to get some information before we vote something that, there's no plan in place.
Councilor Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think anybody here questions that Councilor Rita Mercier's intentions are in the best interest. If I may, I'd like to amend the motion to give the manager and his able staff an opportunity to hash something out and then come back within the next 2 weeks with a recommendation and not suffer an up or down vote on something that's well-intentioned but maybe hasn't had the attention of the proper people. Is there a second?
On the amended
Second.
motion? Second.
Actually, it's a substitute.
Should be substitution.
Substitute motion.
All those in favor of the substitute motion, or does the maker want a roll call?
No.
All those in favor of the substitute motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
I know that someone made mention of the amount of work that the manager has on his plate. Maybe that's why we hesitate a little bit to send this to him. But after looking at the 16 motions, this is going to be a piece of cake.
Okay, any more subcommittee reports? Councilor Milonazo.
Just if we, just to inform the full council that you have appointed a rules subcommittee, and what I'd like to do as chair is to call a meeting for sometime early September. The members of that committee are Councilor Rita Mercier and Councilor Armin Mercier, and we'll be calling a meeting for sometime early September.
If I could just make a suggestion, I know you're going to be considering the prayer issue, but the manager has asked me informally, and I know Councilor Armin Mercier has brought up in the past, that we have something on our agenda for reports back from the manager. That may be a topic worthy of consideration for this subcommittee as well.
The purpose of the motion was to include everything that could be considered in terms of the rules. And I wanted the manager to take a look at the rules and see if there's something there that, would benefit him if it was changed. And I'm particularly concerned about the way we handle suspension of the rules, but I'll take it up at the subcommittee meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Any further subcommittee reports? Okay, under petitions, there is a petition from Flood and Hardigan PC for Thomas Durkin requesting the UMU zoning district on Appleton Street be extended to include 274 to 282 Appleton Street. I think this matter should be referred to the law department, but I'd also suggest it be referred to the manager for report and recommendation as well. Yeah. So moved by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Elliott. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Matters so referred. We have two claims, one for property damage and one for personal injury. Motion to refer both of those to the law department by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Armin Mercier. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Those matters are approved. On the motions, first motion is by Councilor Elliott. City Council requests the city manager have the law department report on the status of the sign ordinance, building permit requirements, etc. Seconded by Councilor Caulfield. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. I think Councilor Broderick has a similar motion. I don't know if we want to take it up at the same time, but I did get a call from Solicitor Fenton giving me an update as to where we are with the sign ordinance, and I was really asking about the orange building permit sign. Where is it at? I mean, Mr. Fenton seemed to indicate, just for the folks at home, that there are still some issues with it, some concerns that we can't move forward with that. And I guess my second question is, where are we with the overall sign ordinance of temporary signs, political signs? I did get a call from a resident who was concerned about these red flashing signs now that are being installed. Are we close to a sign ordinance governing all of these things? I know we have the historic sign ordinance for the downtown area, but
Right.
right now, as far as I know, there is no sign ordinance, which is a concern, including signs that go on, Little League fields and soccer fields and things like that. So just a general question.
Well, as far as the building sign ordinance, that has been completed originally, and I think we had discussed it here at the council meeting about three or 4 weeks ago. DPD was going to bring that building sign ordinance in with the rest of the zoning changes. We have DPD and the law department have worked. It's been completed, and if the council wanted to have a subcommittee meeting, we could have it at the subcommittee meeting, and then refer it back to the full council, or whatever the wish of the council is. But we do have a draft that's ready for council approval and review. With respect to the rest of the zoning changes that we had discussed at the last zoning subcommittee meeting, I believe those are going to be coming forth sometime in September. As far as the sign ordinance, that I can look into. I thought your motion was dealing solely with the building department sign ordinance as it relates to zoning projects and things of that nature, but we can take a look at the other ordinance and give you an update for the packet.
That was my motion. It really was primarily to find out where we are at, because, residents will ask me. I thought we adopted that motion, and I know we had sent it back just for a final review, but that did lead me to my next question, signs in general, and whether that should be, I think Mr. Dave Fenton indicated maybe that should just be a standalone separate ordinance and not be part of the zoning amendments, which I happen to think makes a lot of sense. Most of those issues, they're not relative to the zoning ordinance, so that would make some sense.
Yeah, the building code, or the sign as it relates to different building projects is going to be part of the zoning code.
Okay.
And it will be enforced in the same way as the existing zoning code. With respect to the other signs, what we have now relating to signs is also in the zoning code. But we'll take a look at that and give you a report back on that.
Okay,
The larger
could you
picture.
double check, because I, as a member of the zoning subcommittee, I believe that was not included. So at this point, there does not exist any rules or regulations governing signs. I could be wrong, but I can't remember voting on anything, so, thank you, Madam Solicitor.
Any objection to taking Councilor Broderick's motion at this time?
No.
Motion by Councilor Broderick is for the City Council request the City Manager have the Law Department update the Council Zoning Subcommittee as to zoning updates and the sign ordinance, seconded by Councilor Milonazo. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we just hit probably 90% of it. Through the manager to Christine, I believe the DPD was sending over the building permit sign is to be posted on properties, correct?
That's right, they did. They sent that over on Thursday. It's been reviewed, and it's pretty much set to go.
So that was more your review in terms of enforcement? Was that how we left it?
There are issues of enforcement, and then also a question as to whether to put it into a zoning code or to have it as a separate ordinance, and that was looked at as well.
Okay. And so that, and then we also had what we were calling Phase 2 was the design of
Right, I spoke
the
to-
zoning changes?
Right. So I spoke to George Perakis today, and he indicated that they will be bringing forth the rest of the zoning Phase 2 changes sometime in September.
Okay. I guess if, Mr. Manager, if you could just let us know when it's ready and we can send it to the subcommittee and get it through.
I will do that.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of those two motions say aye. Any opposed? The motions are approved. Next motion is by Councilors Elliott and Broderick. The City Council requests the Finance Subcommittee meet with the new City Manager to review fiscal 2007 city budget, discuss impacts on the tax rate, and make recommendations for implementation. Seconded by Councilor Milonazo. We let Councilor Broderick go first this time, since you
Yeah, I
went
went
first
first the last one.
Okay.
All right, thanks. It's easier following up. Basically, myself and Councilor Elliott filed the same motion. Essentially, we're 1 month into the new budget. I know we, as Councilor Caulfield pointed out, we passed the budget at the end of June. We had to obviously pass a budget, and I thought it would make sense that we ask you, as the new manager, to take a look at it. You're going to have to live with it. We're all going to have to live with it, but if you could take a look at it and see if there's any recommendations that you would make in terms of amendments that might make sense, I don't know, but to give you that opportunity. And also, if you could, as you go through this, if you could let us know, as a snapshot where we stand now. And I think there was a motion by Councilor Donahue maybe 2 meetings ago relative to the bond report.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't receive a copy. I think I got a copy of a memo from Mr. Kennedy explaining it, but I don't know if the rest, but could I get a copy of that at some point?
Certainly. If I may, speaking to the, it's already been pointed out, Mr. Manager.
Mr. Manager, yep.
To the question, has been pointed out, I've had quite a busy week now in my position, and I have a couple more weeks of quite a number of meetings, but certainly one of the most important aspects of the operation of the city moving forward is the budget for FY07, but also the closeout of FY06. And I've had an opportunity to go through the budget a little bit. I had an opportunity to meet with the Chief Financial Officer on a couple of occasions to discuss the budget. And perhaps most importantly, I've had an opportunity to meet with our financial advisors from First Southwest, who assist us with our borrowing. We'll be going into the bond market again in September, and we'll be rated once again by Moody's. And there are some very serious concerns that I have moving forward. First and foremost, we have to close out fiscal year 06 to see where we stand with relation to the year that ended on June 30th, in terms of how we ended the year and, with our revenues and our expenditures. Along those lines, that's where we come up, obviously, with our free cash number to determine how much we have for reserves that we can then use in a variety of ways. And as you know from discussions that we've had already, I have certain philosophy of how we should utilize that free cash money in terms of building up reserves or setting aside for one-time purposes. The concerns I have for fiscal year 07, and then we get into some bigger issues beyond that, but the concerns I have for fiscal year 07 already in discussing with Mr. Kennedy what we know is the energy costs may not be adequate to cover be covered within the budget, particularly in our water operation. Some of our medical costs may not be adequate. Our interest costs, there may not be adequate funds there to cover those costs. We also have other concerns regarding our revenues of the amount of money that we estimated within that budget for new growth. We need to work with our assessors in determining that number, and then know whether we can in fact hit the revenue estimates that we have for the local receipts and available funds. So those are all issues that I hope to be able to address in a very short period of time in reviewing the budget with the finance people here. At that time, of course, we can start to get a sense, and that's what I'm trying to get a handle of what the tax rate is going to be for fiscal year 07 moving forward, and I'd like to get that as soon as possible. But that obviously is a concern. The bigger issues I have, particularly with the borrowing that we have moving forward, Moody's concerns that are in that bond report that I'll get out to the council is that we've had an extensive drawdown of our reserves over the last several years. Unfortunately, in order to retain the workforce and the service levels that the city has had, we've drawn down those reserves year after year, and you can only go so far with that. You're essentially operating on a structural deficit. So we need to be able to address that problem, and we have to be able to address that to the satisfaction of Moody's and the financial community that in fact shows that we have adequate revenues to cover our real costs. So along those lines, I think we have to take a number of steps, and I hope to work with the staff in doing this, but also with the council, and obviously through the subcommittee and the entire council, on putting in place the necessary financial forecasts that we don't currently have in place, to have financial policies that to date I haven't been able to determine are in place, and in fact establish a capital improvement program so that we can start to plan out the necessary costs that the city has for the larger items that we have. I mean, there's another agenda item on the agenda tonight for the arena, for the ice. That's a very large cost, and I'll be trying to get a handle on that. But those are the scope of problems that the city is facing over the next several months and few years that we need to be able to plan out for. And I think if we can show to the Moody's and the financial community that in fact we are looking ahead and have the policies in place and have the planning in place, I think that will go a long way towards helping us with our bond rating and therefore the interest costs that we'll be paying on those borrowings.
Thank you. I think that pretty much hits what I was going to throw out there. Was we also, as you probably saw in the budget, deficit fund the snow removal, and I had a question as far as capital expenditures. There's one on tonight, and so obviously you get your work cut out for you. I guess we can give you a couple days to come back to us with that.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Councilor Broderick mentioned, as well as the manager, it's time for us to get the financial house in order. And I think you've touched on a number of issues, and Councilor Broderick as well. Where are we with new growth? Where are we with our local receipts? Those are all revenues that fold into our tax rate. So at the Finance Subcommittee meeting, Mr. Manager, I would appreciate if the Assessor's Office come, because if we've lost growth, that's got to be offset. Somebody's got to absorb it somewhere. If our free cash is coming in below our projections, it's either going on the tax rate, the levy, or there's going to be a tax increase. And I don't want that to happen. I don't think that people are, they had one last year, they had one the year before, and to this day, we still don't have a copy of the final budget, what we adopted, and in addition to that Moody's report, I would like to get a copy of the final budget to see where we are. Which leads me right into my prior motion. We've handcuffed the manager now with that ordinance because he can, if he does need to make adjustments, if revenues are coming in lower, if our health trust fund is not at the appropriate level, the money's got to come up somewhere. The Treasurer's Office, just as a good example, is down 5 clerks. They literally don't have anybody to open the checks, to prepare them for a deposit and put them in the bank. Now, if they can't manage that, then we're not going to have the money in the bank to pay the bills. So, these are some of the issues, Mr. Manager, that we need to look at. And I think the Treasurer's Office is sort of an immediate nature. And I understand you've only been here for for a week, but I've raised this issue before. I think it's a concern. Nobody's reconciling checks, and it's a material weakness. We're going to have an audit, and that'll be one of the major findings. So that was really one of the primary reasons. Where do we need our bodies now? We all know that local aid, thankfully it came in higher, but we shouldn't have to roll the dice to hope that we get enough money that we can manage it, or again, just put it on the backs of the taxpayers, as they say. So I welcome this. I'll welcome the subcommittee report, because I don't know what the tax rate, I don't know if anybody knows what the tax rate is right now, and we should. And the budget is the budget until we vote on it. We can make any changes that we feel necessary until we vote the tax rate, which is the free cash. So I think the issue has been discussed, and look forward to that meeting. Mr. Manager, when you get that information, when you feel comfortable, we'll call a meeting and get on top of these issues. Thank you.
We'll do that.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I would certainly entertain you, Mr. Manager, at a Finance Subcommittee meeting and listen to what you have to say. As you well know, 83% of the budget is wages and salaries, fixed costs, etc. But I would certainly be looking for innovative ways to address some line items in the budget. You and I discussed that, and there's some line items I think that could be questioned. Are we getting the best bang for the buck? And I'm certainly welcome to meet with you on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. All those, Councilor Milanazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's a good motion, and I'm looking forward to attending the Finance Subcommittee to listen to what City Manager Lynch does have to say relative to the FY07 budget going forward. I was actually also planning to support the motion under unfinished business, but when I did hear this evening that the auditor kind of pulled the trigger relative to some of these positions, I really felt that we may have been putting the city in a position where we may have had some exposure that we really couldn't afford to have at this particular point in time. But again, I think now going forward with the manager in place, looking at the FY07 budget is critically important, and talking about things like a structural deficit, dealing with that, dealing with interest issues, dealing with medical, dealing with energy expenses, I think are all key to making sure that the FY07 budget is sound. So again, I'm looking forward to the subcommittee meeting.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. The next motion is by Councilor Elliott. The City Council requests the City Manager have the Police Department report on the number of violations issued for parking on sidewalks. Second by Councilor Ramirez. Councilor Elliott.
The motion speaks for itself, Mr. Manager. I regularly get complaints, and rightfully so, from constituents that see cars parked on the sidewalks. We spend a lot of money on the sidewalks, and I think it's just an issue of disrespect. And I think I'd like to know how many tickets that we write for those violators on the sidewalks. I understand in some of the areas it's very congested, maybe in Back Central and some areas, but number one, it's a safety issue, and it's just. And I'm not saying that there's more in Back Central than there are others, but it's just you drive down the road and you see people just pulled up on the sidewalks. People can't. They're really used for walking. So if we can just get a report on it, I'd like to know how many are, and I think we have to, write some more tickets to let people know you can't park on the sidewalks. So.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you,
Mr. Manager.
For me, I did get some information for
okay.
Council on that. Over the last year, 620 tickets have been issued for parking on the sidewalk, but I understand it is a problem that's happening throughout the city, and if councilors or the public have any particular areas where it seems to be a problem, I will have the police step up enforcement in that area, but I will also instruct the police to do so on a citywide basis.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Appreciate that. That seems like a high number, but some, obviously people aren't getting the message, so thank you. I'll call you with those areas.
Thank you.
Next motion is by Councilor Elliott. The City Council requests all those in favor of the last motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. Next motion by Councilor Elliott. City Council requests the City Manager investigate the possibility of consolidation of the Department of Public Works and Parks and Recreation Department. Seconded by Councilor Ramirez. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I filed this motion a while ago, and I'm filing it again with you, Mr. Manager, because, let me say the first thing. I think when I look at Public Works, I look at Parks, I look at two similar departments. And it's not a criticism on either department. It's two departments doing similar functions. If you look at the list of laborers, and I know Public Works, they do other things. They work with the schools. But again, first of all, it's not about losing jobs. I'm not looking to downsize. I'm looking to put two departments together, because I look in the future and I don't see how we can possibly expand. So I see some overlap sometime. I look at similar equipment purchases. I think it makes sense to centralize these departments, which it once was, by the way, to work smarter and combine the resources to get a better bang for the buck, and I think that we do. So let me, put that out first, that, it's just to change the organizational structure. Do we need as many managers? Do we need, how many laborers do we need under what department? And I think that's, something that you can do. And it's, I want to take a look not only at the feasibility, but the benefit of combining the two. And there, in my opinion, there's got to be benefits where, there's equipment that we purchased recently that, maybe they share it, maybe they don't, but my experience that there is some overlap, and I think we can do better with combining those two. So that's the intent of the motion, Mr. Manager, and maybe I can amend my own motion to have the manager maybe look at other departments, because it seems like we have a flat organization, and maybe we can restructure, reshuffle. We know our resources are going to shrink. We know that. We're trying to do the best and provide the best services, and taking another look at the way government is operating is the right thing to do to get a better bang, again, more efficient use of our dollars. So that's the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to support this very enthusiastically. I think streamlining is near and dear to me. It is about cost savings. It is about delivering better service for the city, and if there are a lot of positions that are doing the same thing, then that's unfortunate, but it's about delivering a better service to the citizens of this city and saving money. So I'm certainly going to support it. Thank you.
Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. On the motion, it indicates manager investigate possible consolidation. First of all, the men and women of the Parks Recreation Department, DPW, Mr. Manager, excelled, not only during the flood of May, but they excelled every day they're out there working. The parks have never been in better shape. DPW, I think, worked tirelessly to keep our roads and sidewalks maintained and so forth. Consolidation, you're not going to consolidate a dump truck with a backhoe or whatever. Consolidation is personnel. And I would certainly hope that we could refer this to the Finance Subcommittee and listen to you, Mr. Manager, on different scenarios you might have in mind. Once you consolidate, you're talking about one department head, not two department heads. You're not talking about two assistant department heads, you're talking about one. So the consolidation involves personnel. And that I would like to keen in on very closely and see where you're coming from and see where the finance and the council's coming from. Years ago, and I'm going back 20, 25 years ago, when the Parks Department was under the DPW, the parks were in deplorable condition. Deplorable. The youth organizations cut the grass. The youth organizations maintained the ballparks. The youth organizations painted the benches in the dugouts. Under the direction of Tom Belgard, who was a miracle worker, along with the men and women who work for him, they are a role model, not only for Lowell, but the entire state. We have something like 90 parks in our city. And being the commissioner of DPW in this city is 24/7. 24/7. And I can't say enough about the two department heads who head up the DPW and the Parks Department. Very qualified individuals. So I'd be looking forward to see this sent to the Finance Subcommittee, and you can bring forward a program, and the subcommittee can bring that back to the council for review. And I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to suggest also maybe the Personnel Subcommittee as well, maybe make it joint in terms of if there's going to be, personnel involved. But I think that the main thing is, I think you definitely, I assumed that you were going to come in and have to look at this, look at the structure, make recommendations if you feel any are necessary. Mm-hmm. This was brought up in your interview, and quite frankly, the only candidate that mentioned it, this response. So I would assume you're going to look at the entire structure and come up with your own, you want to keep it, you want to replace it, you want to make changes, and then and bring it forward to us. I look forward to any and all recommendations you may have. Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Manager, Councilor Ramirez had his hand up. Why don't we hear from him and then from the manager?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I don't think this motion should go to any subcommittees. This motion go to the city manager. And the key word here, Mr. Manager, is investigate, which I assume you were going to do anyway, given some time. I don't know how to weigh in on this because we have a great DPW, we have a great Parks Department, Recreation, and you'll find that out as you move around the myriad of this government of ours. And so if this is a motion to ask you to look at that possibility, bearing in mind that approval of asking you to look at it is not approval of doing it, I will be guided by what you think should be done as the manager of this city, and not what some individual councilors think that should be done unless they can give you the case that it should be done. You're a very professional person, you have a great background, you have a lot of experience, and I'm going to rely heavily on what you think should be done. And if consolidation is not the answer, and you see that as not the answer, please do not hesitate to suggest that to us as a body of 9, not on any subcommittees. And so I'm going to support this as long as it's going to you to take a look at it, and I would hope that we would give you enough time to come up with a recommendation that then can be sent to some subcommittees if indeed there is a recommendation to do this or not to do that. That's my position on it, Mr. Manager. You're the manager, you're the professional guy, you have to make this city work, and I think that this is a tool that you could probably use or not use. But I don't want you to interpret this motion that I'm supporting as something you should be doing. It's something you should look at, and if you feel it should be done, you'll get my wholehearted support. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercier?
Thank you. That's exactly, Mr. Mayor, how I feel as well. If this is to be sent to you, for you as the manager of this city, to investigate this and check it out and what you think, that's fine. I personally think it's about personalities. I see two people in charge of, one person in charge of each department, being Eddie Walsh, DPW Commissioner, Tom Belgard, the Commissioner of Parks and Recreation and Cemetery. They each are a credit to the city. They're outstanding. I could not say consolidate and put this person in charge or that one in charge. I couldn't do it. I think it's rather premature right now. One has the age perhaps to retire, but not the finances. I wouldn't oust anybody or try to consolidate to try to pressure someone to leave. I certainly wouldn't do that. I wouldn't support that. But as Councilor Mercier said, if you're going to investigate and give a recommendation, that's your opinion, but I'm not supporting that it be done.
Councilor Ramirez?
Just as a point of clarification, Mr. Mayor, there hasn't been a substitute to this. It's still the original motion by Councilor
Correct.
Elliott. Is that correct?
Right.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone further? Councilor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to clarify one thing for my colleagues. I would imagine the manager would investigate ways and means of the consolidation, and then come forward, and then have a meeting with the subcommittees, finance and personnel. It wasn't premature to have a meeting with a subcommittee. I just want to clarify that. Naturally, you're going to take a long time to investigate this motion and come up with ways and means of consolidating, if you do come up with ways and means. But then I think it would have to be referred to personnel and the finance subcommittee. And I just want to reiterate that consolidation, you're talking about personnel, not a backhoe, not a wheelbarrow. Thank you.
All right, Councilor Elliott, and then we'll hear from the manager.
Well, there seems to be a lot of rumors going around. My motion was to have the manager investigate possible consolidation of DPW, Parks and Rec. The same motion I filed probably about a year ago, because I do things, I don't know what Councilor Rita Mercier is talking about. Maybe she's listening to rumors. We need to start doing things, in my opinion, differently. If we can't sit here at the, November or December and say, I can't put this on the backs of the taxpayers. We hear this time and time again, and then there's nothing that we can do about it. This is something that we can do. We can take a look at it. I said in my comments, it's not about purging, it's not about getting rid of people, downside. You can streamline. If folks haven't noticed, when we have the commissioners up here, they're begging for more money. They're saying that they're down by X amount of people. They're barely surviving to make ends meet with their budgets. They're struggling. Money's not coming from the sky, as far as I know, from anywhere. So if you do consolidate, you do have more manpower, you can schedule things better, you can schedule your personnel, you can make better use of them. That's what this motion is about. It's not about personnel, it's not about anything other than the merit of the motion. That's all. You can speculate all you want. But that's why I filed the motion. And if we don't, then we're just going to continue to sink. Because it is about cost, and we need to continue to do this, not only in this department, but in other departments across the city, to try to maintain our services, because we know costs are going up. So you can say you don't want to do this, but then when it comes time to set the tax rate, let's not say, look, I have no alternative to do this. I'm sorry, taxpayers. Let's just be straight with people, that's all. Want to look at some new ideas? Then fine, just tell people the taxes are going up, because there's no other alternative. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry, Mr. Manager. Council Rita Mercy just
Yes.
wanted to be heard one more time.
Thank you. I
here.
just have one more comment. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city manager, Lynch, and welcome aboard for the very first meeting.
Thank you.
But I want to just caution you as to sometime like 10 or 11 years ago, when at that time I was a relatively new city councilor, and then city manager called it reorganization of a particular DPW and let 16 people go. I don't want to repeat that again. I don't want to repeat it again. As you will find a full plate, you will also see that we're dividing this in steps to pay the people that were wronged all them years ago. So when you look at something to try to consolidate, please bear that in mind, the warning that took place. I don't want history to repeat itself because it's a very costly venture, and T.J. McCarthy will know what I'm talking about. Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Manager.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate the motion, and I appreciate the comments that have been made by the various councilors regarding this motion. As you know, as I said earlier, I've been quite busy over the last week. In particular, I've been trying to gather information from the department heads, and they've been very responsive in providing me with outlines of their departments, the staffing that they have, the resources that they have at their disposal, the problems that they're encountering, their goals as departments, and their organization in general. I came into this position with the sense that I'm going to have to put my own stamp on how this city government works in order to deliver the services to the people and to be responsive to the city councilors who have placed me in this position. Certainly, as part of that, it is my intent to look at the total organization to see how it can be done better. And by that, I mean reducing costs when possible, where possible, but at a minimum, ensuring that the services are as good, if not better, than what they're currently being provided. I've been very impressed with the Commissioner of Parks and Recreation. I have certainly knowledge of the Commissioner of Public Works, and I appreciate the proposed possible amendment to look beyond just these two departments, because I do think that in looking at the organization, it's going to be a much more widely encompassing view that I'm going to take as to how I want to organize the city government to deliver those services in the manner in which I think they should be. So I appreciate the motion, and I see that really as an endorsement of the direction that I would like to head in terms of looking at the total structure of the city government to deliver those services.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion is by Councilor Ramirez. Request the city manager meet with the arena management to discuss conditions of the ice and make a report and make any recommendations for repair and replacement of the ice surface and equipment. Seconded by Councilor Broderick. Councilor Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This issue surfaced, to my knowledge, about a month ago at a subcommittee meeting, and the parties advised us that there was something that needed to be done. I've had a number of conversations with some folks up at the university, and they've informed me that in order to be able to repair this situation for next season, not the current one we're going into, we need to bond and look at all of the financial ramifications of this, and I thought it would be timely for you, Mr. Manager, to begin the process, and then maybe perhaps report back to the university subcommittee. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Mayor, the Councilor, I have in fact set up a meeting with the Craig Davis from the Gates. Thank you. From the arena, and the arena commission will be meeting later this week, and I'm planning on attending that meeting as well. Mr. Gates, though, and I have scheduled some time next week to receive a tour of the facility and also to discuss at length the condition of the ice and the improvements that are going to be necessary to fix that problem. I will report to the university subcommittee, though, on that.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion is by Councilor Broderick. The City Council requests the city manager review utilities and solid waste costs and advise of the possibility of contracting to save money. seconded by Councilor Elliott. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is something that was brought up in your interview, so I figured we could start off with something positive that you've done in the past, and hopefully you can repeat it and show people why we paid you so much money. But this is basically, you had mentioned that you contracted with the utilities, but also solid waste, and you saved some money. Again, I know you're dealing with everything right now, but as you've seen in our budget, I think our solid waste alone have doubled, and I was wondering if you could, as time accommodates, look into basically checking into contracts with utilities, controlling basically the costs. As you've said, this was a way for you to save a considerable amount of money. I think it was like $300,000 in Chelmsford. I figured that it'd be a good way to get started now before the snow flies, and maybe save us some money.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor, we have already begun pulling together some of that information. I wasn't aware at the time of my interview that the city already does have a contract with Select Energy for the electricity, but certainly I believe that's coming to an end this December. So, but we do not have a contract for the natural gas outside of Keyspan, so we're going to be looking at that. The Assistant City Manager is pulling together some of those numbers for me, as well as the solid waste costs, and I hope to have a report to the Council in the very near future on some directions we can head in that area.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, if you would indulge me, I have heard from some industry sources about our lack of a natural gas contract, and that the time may be opportune to pursue that. So certainly wholeheartedly support the motion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion is by Councilor Broderick. The City Council requests the City Manager begin appointment, reappointment for city regulatory boards and advise the Council and the public how the policy will be. Seconded by Councilor Milanazzo. Councilor Broderick.
Well, apparently the public knows now. I guess it was an article in the Lowell Sun last week, right around the time the motion was filed. But basically, there's a number of holdovers, people I'm sure that are sitting and wondering what's going to happen, and is everybody going to be let loose, and how do people, have had phone calls from people, how can I apply, and I thought that it's something that obviously you're going to want to get going on, and whether you're interviewing people for reappointment, whatever the process may be, but I thought it'd be a good time to get started again on something positive that you can get right in on.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Armin Mercier.
First of all, I hope this ends once and for all. This controversy of do you, don't you, or will you? This council, before you got here, had a motion made to ask the manager to appoint people who are holdovers and vacancies. Subsequent to that, Councilor Broderick made a motion not to have that done because of the status of the city manager at the time. Now the motion is to have it done, which I think you have the authority to do anyway under the planning form of government. I think it's time that we stop horsing around with this motion. You know what you need to do. I love the policy that you're putting forward as to letting people understand that they can be considered. They only need to submit an interest and a resume. And so I'm delighted to hear tonight and hope that this is the last time we see a motion on this council floor regarding appointments, on various boards and commissions. The planning charter is clear. It's your job to do. It's ours to confirm certain appointments and to receive, for information's sake, those that doesn't require our confirmation. So I'm glad we went full cycle, and good luck.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Manager.
Has been pointed out, I have tried to get out to the media, and we've placed it on the webpage of the city, as well as on cable TV, that we are accepting applications, resumes. I am anxious to have residents of Lowell submit their interests to me, and it's my intention to try to appoint people that are highly qualified, try to bring new people into the city government, while certainly trying to bring in the experience and the qualifications that we need as well. But that process is moving forward, and I hope to move quickly in that area as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott.
Just very briefly, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, what is the process that you'll put in place for selecting individuals? You just mentioned that it's going to be advertised here and there. Will you compile a list and interview the candidates? And I believe that maybe a motion that Councilor Broderick made, or there was an amendment, that you can give us a list of, who applied and who you picked and why you picked them. So we know, from time to time, people will ask me, are there openings? I'd like to serve. How can I, participate in the community? And, I don't know if they send you a resume or not, but I think it'd be just nice to know that, who applied and, who you selected, from that pool of candidates. Again, just making government a little bit more transparent, not trying to interfere with, the authority that is delegated with you. But, I think the motion Councilor Broderick made was I think it was a good motion. Where are we? There have been some holdovers. He made a motion before, but that was just because there was an outgoing manager, and I don't think it was an inappropriate motion. We knew that another motion similar to the motion I made on the salaries tonight, new manager coming in, let's hold up and give you a shot at it. So I don't think we've been horsing around with them at all whatsoever. I just thought it was, wanted to wait to get appointments from your administration, which I think is fair and reasonable.
Thank you. All those in favor of the, Mr. Manager,
Just,
do you have a comment?
just one response, Mr. Mayor. The only, I don't think I have any problem with doing anything that you've just asked. The only, I guess, caveat I would put to that is I've asked people to submit their applications, and I haven't necessarily required them to ask for a particular appointment. So they may just, have a particular background, and they want to be involved, and they'll be generally applying for anything that they feel or that I believe would be appropriate. So they may not be specifically asking, let's say, for the Board of Library Trustees. They may have a background in something else, and I may feel that they'd be best suited for library trustees. So it may be difficult for me to say. Some people may not specifically ask for one or the other.
That's a good point, and maybe some folks don't want their names released. I know when we went to the interview process, I released names, and that's not the intent of this. It was just, people would like to know who applied and who was selected for that reason. So whatever it is, just a suggestion, actually, not that it has to be taken.
I appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a point of clarification, this really wasn't an instruction to begin appointments. Obviously, you could have done that at 12:01 last Monday. It was really for you to address and let people know how do you intend to go about the appointments and reappointments, because I'm sure everybody here has been contacted and asked about their status or asked if they can apply for a certain board or position, and I just thought it'd be a good idea for you to come out and say, this is how I'm going to handle it, this administration, contact here, mail here, whatever the case may be. And again, helpful for them to apply is, for a board and not necessarily ask for a particular board, or they may get a board they didn't ask for. But it certainly wasn't meant as an instruction, okay, you can begin now, because obviously under Plan E, you can do it as a matter of right. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion is by Councilor Milonazo. City Council requests the city manager report on whether or not constable appointments are Corey checked. Second by Councilor Armin Mercier. Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me begin by saying those constables that I do know and have known in the past are all fine, upstanding, law-abiding citizens. But after the four-part series that ran in the Globe this past week, I thought it would be a good idea just to hear from the administration as to whether or not the constables that we do bring forward are, in fact, Corey cleared. The four-part series did highlight a number of questionable practices that some constables and debt collectors are using, and I think that from the standpoint of making sure that the constables that we're involved with or we appoint aren't involved in those types of questionable activities. So I would ask my colleagues to support this motion and get a report back from the city manager to see if, in fact, the HR department, if you will, is actually providing those types of background checks.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have the answer to this motion, because I was curious myself. So I noticed that when we get the applicant's information, we do get it as councilors. A lot of the letters are addressed to our city assessor, Susan LeMay. So I called Susan LeMay, and I asked her, how does the process work? And she tells me that each constable applicant must submit 5 letters of reference accompanied by their date of birth and their social security number. Once she gets all this information, she sends this the date of birth and their social security number and their name over to the police department for a criminal history record. This is done every 3 years so that if for some reason they submit it again for the next 3 years, it's done all over again. Susan LeMay has been doing this since 1985, and when she does have time, she does it every year, whether they're being renewed or not. So she's right on top of it, and so if you want further information, you can get a report, but I know that they do a query check, they do a criminal history run-through to make sure that this is a person of upstanding character, and like you said, the names that we've seen submitted to us, they have been of outstanding character, and it is done. Thank you. That's one less item, so we can work on the Mesa Parks apartment people.
I'm not so sure that answers the question.
All right.
I have a question through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city solicitor. That's a very delicate position, the person who requests and requires a query. And there's some certain regulations, some very strong regulations as to how they use that information. I didn't realize that the assessor was our query agent. I thought it was
Right, I didn't realize
She
that
doesn't
either.
run it
She
herself. She sends it to the police department and they do it. She doesn't do it.
Right.
Well,
By
I don't understand why the assessor is asking the police department for a query and a constable bond.
the, that's the
Hear
process.
from the manager?
Yeah, the manager, first Mr. Manager, then the solicitor here.
Mr. Mayor, the Councilor Merce here described the process. I learned the process myself today in preparing for the meeting, and it described is in fact the way it is. I was surprised as well that the assessor is the one responsible for the constable background checks or preparing the list of constables, but in fact that has been the practice in the city for a period of time. Really? Just for clarification though, she does not actually do the query background check. She simply gathers the information and then submits it to the police department, which does the actual criminal history systems board
So
check.
our query agent is actually the police department?
Right, right,
Okay.
it is.
Okay,
Correct.
that's bothered me a little bit that we had an assessor being a query agent.
No,
Right,
she's not doing it.
she
She
handles the
gathers the
constables.
information for our agent because
I
the
think
law is specific on how careful you need to be with that.
That's right.
I think we answered Councilor Milonazo's motion.
Yes,
Yeah.
I guess you have. Thank you.
All right, well, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? If there's any further clarification, I'm sure the manager can provide it. Next motion is by Councilor Milonazo. The City Council requests the city manager look at ways the city can support the summer program conducted at the University of Massachusetts at Lowell. Second by Councilor Broderick. Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was an article in this past Thursday's Northwest Weekly where it talked about funding loss threatens popular Lowell program. And it's a program that the city, under Manager Cox, did support over the years. And I thought that if it was timely to bring this forward to try to identify funding sources going forward so that the National Youth Sports Program, as it's called, that benefits economically disadvantaged students, boys and girls actually between the age of 10 and 16, can be funded next year. And again, I think it's an important program. I think it's one that there's a very good partnership between the university, between the National Association, and between the city and other funding sources. So I think that Lowell has been known to, roll up its sleeves and be innovative, if you will, to come up with ways to keep good programs like this going. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to identify funds so that this program will actually be allowed to continue next summer.
Thank you. All those, Mr. Manager, do you have some thoughts on that?
Mr. Mayor, just some information for Councilor Milonazo. I did receive a report from Mike McQuaid of our Career Center that, in fact, 36 of our junior counselors, 36 of the youth that we provide summer work to, have provided some service to the National Youth Sports Program. The estimated cost is about $30,000, but I'm going to be meeting with Mr. McQuaid in the next week to go over his operation, and that will be one of the priorities that I can make on preparations for next year as well.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion is by Councilor Milonazo. City Council requests the city manager instruct the police department to enforce no bike riding on sidewalks downtown. Seconded by Councilor Caulfield. Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This motion's been before us before. It speaks for itself, but it seems just lately it's getting more dangerous to walk in our downtown. So if we could try to enforce that ordinance, that would be very helpful.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion by Councilor Milonazo. The City Council requests the city manager report on whether a building permit can be issued for an elderly or single-parent head of household even though real estate or excise taxes may not be paid up to date. Seconded by Councilor Elliott. Councilor Milonazo.
The motivation behind this motion is a result of a program that Community Teamwork actually offers, and Councilor Rita Mercier and I both sit on Community Teamwork's Board of Directors, and Community Teamwork, as we all know, provides a valuable service in that they install heating systems in elderly and single-parent head of households, people that are on fixed incomes. And it turns out, as of late, in pulling building permits, they've been denied. It's my understanding they've been denied. I don't have any factual account of this as of this point, but they've been denied building permits, so therefore they're not able to actually carry out the work. So I'm asking the city manager to look to see if this is something that can be waived so that these heating systems can actually be installed and provide relief to our elderly and our single-parent head of households, so that new heating systems and, in some cases, windows and insulation can be installed in these homes.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion is by Councilor Milonazo. The City Council requests the city manager report on the status of the University Avenue Bridge. Seconded by Councilor Elliott. Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you. As you all know, I serve on the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments Board, and we actually have been talking about the University Ave Bridge, and I guess I'm getting concerned with the timing. It turns out that the funding for the University Ave Bridge is in the fiscal year 10 budget, 2010, and Mass Highway is telling Northern Middlesex Council of Governments through their Transportation Improvement Subcommittee that there's an issue of the land takings. And Mass Highway is, I believe, looking at just 2 takings at the end of Merrimack Street, where it's my understanding that the city, through either the bridge subcommittee or through meetings with the neighborhood, we're looking at more than just the 2 buildings. So Mass Highway has indicated that if the city's going to take upwards of, I believe, 5 buildings and then some ancillary properties, that they've indicated through Northern Middlesex Council of Governments that the city may be on its own on those particular properties. So I'm given the impression that the project is pretty much on hold at this particular point until the city, I believe, speaks with Mass Highway to try to move it off the dime. I understand that they were moving toward 25% design, but until a decision is made on what buildings will actually be taken, again, the reason for the motion is to make sure, based upon the fact that the bridge that's there we have a very tight window to get it replaced. And if they're talking now design in 09 and construction in FY 10, it's really something we all need to pay attention to.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, the Director of Planning and Development and I met with Mass Highway today on this issue. And in fact, your concerns are legitimate, that it is a very tight window that we have, that we need to do something with that bridge quickly, because the repairs that were made to the existing bridge are only, supposed to last for a certain amount of time. I believe it's 5 years. So that is something that's creeping up on us very quickly. We will prepare a more extensive report for the ad hoc bridge committee, and I'll have the Director of Planning and Development provide that to you.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield, I'm sorry.
Very briefly, that's an excellent motion, Councilor. And Mass Highway told us when we met with Manager Cox and T.J. McCarthy and his staff last February, the clock was ticking on that old bridge. And they'll pull the plug, and we'll be without a bridge completely. So I think it's incumbent that your administration and this council move swiftly to start the proceedings, eminent domain proceedings and so forth. We can't, the state said they won't do nothing until that happens. So it's an excellent motion.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion is by Councilor Caulfield. The City Council requests the city manager have the proper department or agency paint the railings at the Hunts Falls Bridge and clean debris in the Route 110 area. Second by Councilor Rita Mercier. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I filed this motion because I was asked to by a constituent, and I hadn't even received the packet yet when I received a call from another constituent with an immense amount of information, Mr. Manager, and I'll give you this information. And this is from the Massachusetts Executive Office of Transportation, and I want to thank Marion Baruso, who actually furnished me with this information. The railings are despicable, and the bridge needs an immense amount of work. But this communication I received, there's one paragraph. Please be advised that this bridge is included in a federal aid bridge preservation program that will include extensive repairs to the bridge deck and the bridge rails. This project is expected to be advertised for construction bids in federal fiscal year 2007. So that's good news. Excuse me? No, they're gonna do immense renovations to it, and I think we all agree that it's needed. But not only is the bridge been neglected, Mr. Manager, but that's the main thoroughfare into our city and out of our city. And the overgrowth, the brush, the landscaping, it's neglected severely, and that falls under the preview of Mass Highway. And I'd like to have them address that, and I'll furnish you with this information. You're going to find it very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That has been a perennial motion that I would be bringing up quite a bit, because it is a gateway into the city, and I think that we as Lowellians and government people in the local political scene like to have our city looking spotless. We like to have it shine. We don't want graffiti on things. We want to take care of things the best that we can with the limited amount of money that we have in the budget. And then when we see areas that are not in our domain, but it is in the states, that they should be addressing, and they don't really address it, then this is reassuring to know that money is coming in, because it is an eyesore and it is a gateway into the city. So I'm happy to know that Councilor Caulfield made the motion. Someone saw the agenda online and gave him this information, so I'm pretty darn happy about it. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion by Councilor Caulfield. The City Council requests the City Manager have the Parks Department and the Heritage Park initiate the proper recognition of Camille Eno for his years of volunteerism and for his enthusiastic support and love of the parks in the city. Seconded by Councilor Armin Mercier. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, volunteerism in our city is tremendous. It's immense, and many things happen because of volunteers. Mr. Eno, the gentleman in the red bow tie, volunteered decades at the Boot Mills, and he was more like he acted out, running the weaving machines and so forth. He put a smile on everyone's face because he greeted everyone with a smile. And he was a tremendous, I would have to say, a professional pool player. And I think he showed many people the art of pool. He traveled around the city with his own cue and a special pouch and so forth. Everyone knew Mr. Eno, everyone. And he had the distinction of meeting presidents and vice presidents and governors, legislators. And Mr. Eno passed away 6 months ago. And I think it'd be a great gesture if we recognized his ambassadorship. He was an ambassador to our city. And anyone who came into our city who was visiting the national park, they had to meet Camille Eno somewhere along the line. And his enthusiasm and his great nature and love of the city shone everywhere he went. So I would wish my colleagues would support some recognition for Camille Eno, a gentleman with the red bow tie. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? Motion is approved. Motion to adjourn by Councilor Armand Mercia, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any
Before we adjourn, I just want to say that, Mr. Lynch, your first meeting is always the toughest. You went right through this meeting in a great form.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We stand adjourned.